Good day, everyone. I'm Steve Skinner from Doble Engineering. Welcome to the 2020 virtual Doble Client Conference Committee meetings. This whole virtual thing is not my preferred method of presenting, and I'm new to it, so I'll do my best to not mess it up too badly. I'm here today to talk briefly about the Doble Calisto T1. T1 puts a prime IDD, a prime PD guard, and a prime IO into one unit. The rendering on the right-hand side is an example of a fully loaded Calisto T1 with a bushing monitor, PD monitor, 2 slots of digital inputs, and one slot of digital outputs, and 1 slot of analog. It doesn't have to start this way. It can begin as a single slot of I/O, and later be easily upgraded in the field to include a PD guard, an IDD, and/or more I/O. The T1 uses the same user interface as all of the other prime units, and no proprietary software is required. The standard communication protocols include Modbus and DNP with an optional IEC 61850. The T1 is a compact unit. The T1 itself is about 12.5 inches tall, about 14 inches wide, and roughly 8 3/4 inches deep. The enclosure that the T1 is in is approximately 28 3/8 high, about 21.5 wide, and 14 1/4 inches deep. This slide is pictures of the T1 installed. The picture on the left gives you an idea of the relative size of the entire unit, and the picture on the right is showing you a fully populated enclosure. When the unit is received from Doble, all of the terminal blocks are wired from the top of the terminal blocks to the T1, and all the power supplies, the network switches, the climate control, which is on the door that's on the right-hand side, are all there. One of the conduits, the conduit coming from the control cabinet to the T1, is for power. One of the conduits that drops down, it's a 2-inch conduit that drops down, is from the bushing tap adapters, and the 4-inch conduit coming out of the ground is from the CCVTs for the voltage reference. This is a screenshot of the dashboard, and this is the first screen that you'll be presented with when you log into the unit itself. When you expand this chevron right here, you effectively get the latest reading of every monitor that happens to be in this group. Obviously, it's not showing here because in order to be able to read it, to get it all in there, it won't fit. But this just gives you an idea of what the dashboard screen looks like. This slide is showing 3 separate screenshots from the data tab. And the data tab is a graphical view of one monitor, one channel for a specific period of time, in this case, 2 months. In this case, we're viewing the data associated with the H1 bushing monitor. When this chart's first viewed, it can be somewhat confusing because there are a lot of squiggles in it. However, any of the channels can be turned off by clicking on the channel name on the bottom of the chart, or by clicking on the ghosted channels, you can turn them back on. For instance, in the center shot, it's widely known that the leakage current value is basically Ohm's law, which is I equals E divided by R, or in this case, I equals E divided by X sub C, and X sub C happens to contain the capacitance value. So it might be reasonable to view the primary voltage, the leakage current, and the bushing capacitance by turning off total harmonic distortion, THD, power factor and angle, you can see that the primary voltage and the bushing leakage current follow each other very closely. The capacitance follows a similar pattern. This makes sense. The bottom shot, it's known that the power factor or the tan delta is directly related to the loss angle. By turning off primary voltage, leakage current, and capacitance, you now see the true power factor and the angle loss. And you'll notice the patterns follow each other very closely. Again, makes sense. This is a screenshot of the Analytics tab. It happens to be 10 days worth of data just to show a little bit more detail. And this screen is the screen where the user can actually see the depth of the monitor. With this tab, it's possible to view more than one monitor, more than one channel from each monitor of the T1. In this case, the channel from the H1 bushing monitor, the H1 primary current monitor, the H1 system voltage monitor, and the PAPR are being plotted. The chart is only really limited by the data that exists in the T1 and the imagination of the user to try to correlate the data to see what may be happening. From a single monitor and all viewed on the same chart. The T1 can also accept third-party monitors to be displayed along with the T1 data. So let's take, for example, you have a dissolved gas monitor that's feeding into the T1. PD can generate gases in oil, and the gases generated and their concentrations can be a function of the strength of the PD. So the dissolved gas monitor feeds data into the T1. The T1 itself is measuring the PD signals and the voltage signals. By plotting the gas values from the dissolved gas monitor, the PD data, and the system voltage from the T1, the user can get a sense of if the PD is voltage dependent and how serious the problem may be. This has been a very brief look at the Calisto T1. The T1 is a powerful monitoring platform with a relatively small footprint. This gives the user more options for the location of the monitor. The T1 can be a simple function monitor, as in one slot of I/O, and later a PD monitor, a bushing monitor, and/or I/O can be added. All the upgrades can be done in the field. With the T1's ability to accept third-party monitors, its usefulness is only limited by the user's imagination and the third-party monitor's ability to communicate with the T1. Regardless of the configuration, it includes numerous data communications protocols that will work within your firewall and meet your cybersecurity requirements. The T1 includes powerful viewing and analysis tools, whether it is configured as a single monitor or a multifunction monitor, and does not require proprietary software to be loaded on your computer. Thank you very much for your time, and I hope I didn't botch this nearly as badly as I think I did. Have a good day.